I'm going to do something a little different today. Something a little more raw, something really close to home. I lost my father in December 2025, just a few months ago. And for a while, I honestly wasn't sure I was going to talk about it on here. It felt too personal, too raw. Like something I needed to keep in my own chest rather than bring it out into the world. But then I thought about why I started this show. I started it because I wanted to have real conversations. The ones that actually matter. The ones that most people dance around. And there's nothing more real to me right now than what it means to have had the father that I had. And what it means to try to be a father that I want to be, now that mine is gone. So this episode is for my dad. He was a man who fought harder than anyone I've ever known. He smiled wider than anyone had a right to, and never once let the weight of the world stop him from showing up. I miss him every day, but I carry him with me in everything that I do, including this. I'm the Nosey Coach, and today we're going somewhere I've never taken you before. My dad was the kind of man that I genuinely cannot do justice to in words, but I'm going to try. He fought. That is the first thing you need to know. Life threw things at this man, health issues that have killed so many before him, challenges that would have given anyone a legitimate excuse to check out, to get bitter, to start living smaller, and he just didn't. My dad kept showing up. He kept smiling. And I don't mean that polite, everything's fine smile that we all do to get through the day. I mean a real one, a full one, the kind that made you feel like whatever room he was in was the right room to be in. In fact, as I'm saying this right now, I am staring at a picture of him with a Guitar Hero guitar beaming ear to ear, brightening up my wedding. But there was a stretch of time, and some of you know what this is like, where my dad was going through very serious health complications. The kind of things where doctors use words that make your stomach drop. And I remember going to see him, fully prepared to be the strong one, to hold it together, to be supportive. And this man who had every right to be broken, looked at me, cracked a joke so bad it should have been illegal, and he made me laugh. And look, my dad's jokes were not sophisticated. Let's be honest about that. This was a man who thought that knocking on a table and saying, "Anyone home?" was peak comedy. He once told me a joke, I'll spare you the full version, but the punchline was literally just him pointing at himself and winking. And yet somehow every single time I laughed. Because it wasn't really about the joke, it was about the fact that this man, in the middle of everything he was carrying, still wanted to make me smile. That's who he was. He gave that to you even when he had very little left to give. And here's the thing about my dad that I think about most. He became one of my best friends. Not because he tried to be the cool dad, not because he pretended to be younger than he was, or acted like my buddy instead of my father, but because somewhere along the way he crossed that threshold where it wasn't just father and son anymore. It was two guys who genuinely liked each other. Two guys who wanted to spend time together, who could talk about anything and everything, and we did. He became one of the guys, and I mean that in the best possible way. I could bring him everywhere, introduce him to anyone, and within 10 minutes, he'd have you all laughing and talking like they'd known you for years. He had that gift, a rare, irreplaceable gift of making people feel like they mattered. And that's what I'm trying to do now. Because when he did it, he meant it. And now I'm trying to do the same thing with those around me. He didn't just teach me how to be a son, he showed me by example every single day how to be a man, how to be a father, how to face the hard stuff without letting it take your smile. As I sit here today doing this show, these conversations, this version of me that finally decided to step into something bigger, his fingerprints are all over it. Because he never once let me believe that staying small was an option. Not through lectures, not through pressure, just through consistent, relentless ways he kept going. And that's the blueprint that he left me, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it. Now, I told you this episode has something in it for you and your father too, and here's where we get to that. Every father passes things down. Some of it is said out loud, advice, values, the things they sit you down and tell you when you think you need to hear it. But most of it is never said at all. Most of it is just absorbed, watched, inherited without a conversation ever taking place. Your dad handed you a picture of what a man is supposed to look like, how he's supposed to handle pressure, how much he's allowed to feel, what success means, what strength means, and whether it's okay to ask for help or whether that means you're failing at something. Some of what he handed you is gold, genuine, pure gold. The stuff that made you who you are, and the stuff worth carrying forward, the stuff you want your own kids to have. And some of it, through no fault of his own, and no fault of yours, might be a little worn. It might be a belief that made sense in his generation that doesn't quite fit the man you're trying to become. It's not wrong, it's just not yours anymore. So the question is, do you know which is which? Here's what my dad taught me that I kept. And I mean, I'm keeping this with me in everything I do. Your attitude towards life is a choice every single day. No matter what is happening to you, no matter what the diagnosis is, no matter what falls apart, or no matter what gets taken away, you still choose whether you showing up smiling or whether you let it take your smile away. My father had every reason to be angry, every reason to feel cheated in life, to ask why me, to close up and stop giving so much of himself to the people around him. And he just never did that. Not once. Not that I ever saw anyway, and trust me, I was paying attention. This is not a small thing. This is not a personality quirk. It is a decision made over and over again for an entire lifetime. And watching my dad make that decision, silently, consistently, without ever asking for recognition, that is the most important lesson I have ever received about what it means to be a man. He didn't tell me life was going to be fair. He showed me it didn't matter. What mattered was how you carried yourself through the unfair parts. That was one of his gifts to me, and I'm passing it to my kids whether I mean to or not, which means I'd better mean to. I have 2 kids, 2 young, crazy, hilarious, beautiful kids who exhaust me and my wife all the time. But in the same breath, they fill me up. And I think about this all the time. They're watching me the way I watched my dad. They are taking notes on how their dad handles the hard stuff. And I want, more than I want almost anything, for them to be able to say someday what I can say about my dad. He kept going. He kept smiling. And that was enough to show me it was possible. That's the inheritance worth leaving. It's not the money. It's not the stuff. It's not the title. Now, the title of this episode promises something about unlearning. And I want you to honor that, even in this episode, because it matters. My dad's generation of men was taught that strength meant silence, that you handled things internally, that you didn't burden people with your struggles, that being a man meant being a wall, solid, unmoving, showing nothing. And I do understand where that came from, and I can respect where that came from. Those men faced things that required that kind of toughness, and they built something out of it that we're all still living inside. But I've also watched what happens when that wall never comes down. Even in private, even with the people who love you the most, I've seen the cost of keeping everything inside to protect everyone around you. So here's the one thing I'm choosing to unlearn. With all the love in the world for the man who modeled it, I don't have to carry it alone to prove I'm strong. Talking about it with my wife, talking to my kids, to even all of you, potentially a room full of strangers on the internet, and whatever time you're listening to this, that's not weakness. That's exactly what my dad would have wanted from me, even if he never quite had the words for it himself. So here's my one thing for the week. If you can, call your dad. Not to have a big conversation, not to say anything in particularly profound, just to hear his voice, just to check in, just to let him know he's on your mind. Because I promise you, from where I'm standing right now, you will never regret making that call. And there will come a day when you can't anymore. And if you've already lost your father, then take a minute to think about the best thing he gave you, the real things, the things that live in how you walk into a room, how you handle pressure, how you love your own kids. Find it, name it, and carry it forward on purpose. That's how he stays with you. Dad, if somehow this reaches you wherever you are, thank you. Thank you for the smile. Thank you for the jokes. Thank you for being one of the guys. Thank you for being one of my best friends. And thank you for showing me every single day, without ever making a speech about it, what it looks like to be a man worth becoming. I've got your grandkids. They're a handful. You would have absolutely loved every second of it. Like I said, that episode is meant to be raw. In the next one, we're going to talk about that Sunday night feeling. Not the football kind. That specific, quiet dread that rolls in at the end of the weekend and what it's actually trying to tell you. It's a good one. But first, go make that phone call. I'm the Nosey Coach. I'll see you next time.